G'day guys, it's Ragnarok here. Today we're going to talk about the Shadowlands class changes that have just been revealed. I'll be making a series of videos covering each class as the changes come out over the next several months. Take these changes with a grain of salt as there will be more changes before Shadowlands goes live. Today we'll be looking at the Shaman's class changes. Let's take a look at the general class changes and then we'll cover each spec. In Shadowlands, Chain Heal, Chain Lightning, Healing Stream Totem, Flame Tongue Weapon, Flame Shock, Frost Shock, and Lightning Shield will all be available for Shamans, regardless of their specialization. Searing Totem also returns as an ability for all Shaman to use. The Maelstrom resource bar has also been removed. So from what we've seen here is that they're reverting all the pruning that happened to the class after Mists of Pandaria. Let's step back in time and have a look at what Shaman looked like back in Mists of Pandaria before Warlords of Draenor came out with the heavy class pruning.
Alliance blood spills. This pleases me, General.
There's more. I received word that our southern fleet engaged an Alliance envoy. We chased the royal flagship until it ran aground.
Aground? Where?
Apparently they found a massive, uncharted landmass, shrouded by dense mists.
And you let the Alliance get there first?
Mists of Pandaria had a lot of things that we're asking for to return in Shadowlands. The big ones are having many of the spells back that were removed, and PvP vendors, to name a few. At first glance, it really does feel like the halfway point between Vanilla WoW and Retail WoW. It has a lot of its original features from Vanilla, like the interface, spells, and character models, but also has the modern quality of life features like AoE looting, transmog, and account-wide achievements, pets, and mounts. I think it was one of the sweet spots of WoW as far as its game mechanics go. Things started to go downhill when Warlords of Draenor launched, with much of the content cut from the game, including many beloved class spells. Now that we've had confirmation that these will be returning, let's take a look at what we can expect to see in the Shadowlands expansion. Alright, let's take a look at the Shaman's spellbook. For example, I'm Enhancement spec right now, and you've already noticed that Enhancement there's a lot of healing spells in here, and elemental spells, that you wouldn't have access to in Battle for Azeroth. Like Chain Heal and Chain Lighting, all these air totems, Stormlash totem, like what is that? You know, all these spells that were removed from the game that would be really cool if we still had them now. They have confirmed that shocks will be coming back, but they did confirm Flame Shock and Frost Shock were available for Enhancement Shamans as well as the other two specializations. So now Enhancement can focus on keeping their Flame Shocks up as well as their Frost Shocks to slow, which might be great and fun in PvP. They also talked about weapon imbues, saying that this will be across all specs. They did confirm Wind Fury and Flame Tongue. I'm not sure if they will last a few seconds like they do in Battle for Azeroth, or if they will last one whole hour like they did in Mists of Pandaria. I kind of hope that they will last 1 hour again because I enjoyed that more, and then we could focus our rotation more on keeping our Flame Shock active, whereas keeping the imbued weapon active every 14 seconds or whatever it was more of a nuisance than anything else. I didn't find it enjoyable at all, but that's just my opinion. They said they're going to make some changes to Maelstrom, so it's no longer a resource bar. As you can see here, we've just got a mana pool. That's what they want to do with Shadowlands as well. However, Maelstrom will still be in the game. For example, in Mists of Pandaria, when you did damage with melee weapons, you had a chance to generate a charge of Maelstrom. Each charge would reduce the cast time by 20% and it could stack up to 5 times. It would also reduce the cost. I'll give you an example. Now as we attack, we built up 3 charges, right? 3 times 20%, that's 60% off our cost and cast time on any of our spells under than 10 seconds. So we could use that on Healing Surge or Lightning Bolt, for example. When it becomes to 5 stacks, you'll see this symbol here. This means that you get a free cast and a free cost. So if I wanted to heal myself with Healing Surge, I would click that and it wouldn't cost any mana at all. And it will also be an instant cast. Pretty similar to how the Maelstrom bar worked in BFA, but also a bit more RNG, but your class isn't so dependent. It's not a builder spender class anymore, which makes it a bit more interesting and less generic. So as I just explained, Maelstrom weapon returns, giving each attack a chance to grant a stack of a buff that can be used to make your next healing or damage dealing spell instant. Flame Tongue Weapon and Wind Fury can once again be applied to Enhancement Shaman's weapons, imbuing them with the power of the elements to suit the situation at hand. So that sounds more like the 1 hour imbue buff, not so much the short buff. But I could be wrong here, it doesn't really clarify it. The Changing Hailstorm, the passive bonus, it's redesigned so it resets the cooldown of Flame Shock and Frost Shock when a Shaman uses Storm Strike. So that's pretty cool. I can see that being super handy in PvP. Searing Assault metamorphosizes into a powerful fire attack, striking the foe for a significant fire damage and causing their Searing Totem to cast incredibly fast. It also triggers Flame Shock to rapidly dish out its damage over time burn effects to melt enemies. So you can pretty much choose this talent, and I think Searing Assault becomes a spell, not so much a passive, and it makes you more of like a fire shaman. It buffs all your fire abilities. Overcharge is another talent, which will likely be a little bit different, and it will instantly generate you 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, and then another stack every second for a short duration. So you use Recharge, then you use a spell that would spend those charges, like Lightning Bolt or Healing Surge, and then your stacks will start building up very quickly again for the next few seconds. So then you can dish out another one of those spells. Stormkeeper, which is usually what resets your Storm Strike cooldown, it'll make your next 2 Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning spells instant cast and deal bonus damage, which is pretty cool. It also benefits from your Maelstrom weapon, lowering Stormkeeper's cast time, so the Enhancement Shaman can chain powerful abilities together to pummel down foes quickly. So Enhancement's going to be back to its bursty self as it was before Legion reworked it heavily. Elemental Blast is now a talent option for Enhancement Shaman, giving this melee focus spec access to a powerful spell to destroy foes from a distance. It also benefits from Maelstrom weapon's effect, which means you can spend your charges on this spell, Elemental Blast. I'm not sure if Elemental Blast is going to be a talent or baseline, but I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of like a Chaos Bolt for Shamans, and it looks really awesome. And it also gives you a haste buff or mastery buff or crit buff. I'm not sure if it will still give you that little buff when it goes live in Shadowlands, but I guess we'll see once the alpha comes out and sheds some light on things. But now let's start talking about the Elemental Shaman, now that we've covered the enhancement changes. Alright, for Elemental, let's just read over what it says about the Maelstrom situation, talk about its new talent that's coming in, then I'll explain of what it all means. So the Maelstrom resource and bar have been removed, returning Elemental Shaman to their former cooldown management playstyle. When we added Maelstrom to Shamans in Legion, we wanted to improve the affordance around the use of Earthshock and Earthquake in their rotation, but the addition of the resource had the side effect of converting the spec into one of the Builder-Spender ability classes. So when an Elemental Shaman presses Earthshock, it consumes most of their resource. The expectation is that the moment is the peak of their rotation, and there should be a big payoff. But we want the focus to be around the rotation of spreading your Flame Shock debuffs on multiple targets and maximize the potential of Lava Burst procs. Lightning Bolt and Earth Shock are meant to be a flavorful but secondary part of the single target rotation. As such, we are returning the design that relies on building stacks of Fulmination to determine when to insert Earth Shock into the rotation. Similarly, Chain Lightning and stacks of Seismic Thunder will serve to enable Earthquake. So what that means is if you played Elemental Shaman before Legion reworked it with the Maelstrom, it was pretty much what they were saying. Like you spread your Flame Shock out off cooldown to as many targets or adds as you possibly could, and then you just get endless instant Lava Burst procs. It was so much fun. Like you were just like a lava cannon as soon as you got proc after proc after proc, and your damage skyrocketed. Fulmination it's similar to how Maelstrom works, but it builds up stacks, like your little buff. It will build up as stacks, and I think it went up to about 20 stacks, and if you use Earth Shock, when it was at 20 stacks, your Earth Shock would still do a giant burst of damage. Echoing Shock is a new talent that blasts a target for significant damage, and makes it so the Shaman's next healing or damage spell casts a second time shortly afterward without costing additional resources. So it's kind of like your Echoing Elements or your Multi-Strike ability. That's pretty much what Echoing Shock is, and I feel like it may replace Earth Shock's like playstyle where you build up a resource and then spend it. It could be similar to how that works. Mind you, Earth Shock might still be spent that way with Fulmination. We'll just have to wait and see. Restoration hasn't had too many direct changes yet, except for the fact that there's more abilities available to War Shaman specs, and Earth Shield, and they get a new talent. So with Earth Shield, it can now be used by all Resto Shamans without the need to select it as a talent, which is good. And Surge of the Earth is a new talent that expands a few charges of Earth Shield to significantly heal the current Earth Shielded target and several nearby allies. This will be nice in dungeon groups and keeping Earth Shield on the tank, for example. That's pretty much how Resto used to be before the recent reworks in Legion and BFA. The fact that it's going back to the roots is a good thing in my opinion. Overall, I'm very excited about the changes so far. I'm very happy to see so many core spells returning to all Shaman specs. I'm also glad they're ditching the Maelstrom as a main resource and using it as more of a bonus resource for Enhancement Shaman. Most changes seem to affect Enhancement, as it was the most reliant on the Maelstrom Builder-Spender system. It's good to see that they're moving away from the generic Builder-Spender gameplay and back to what made Enhancement a unique melee spec. The elemental changes look promising too, though I feel it will get more negative feedback due to elemental being a more popular spec in BFA. However, I'm all for changing it back to its root spec, as I personally found that a bit more interesting than the Builder-Spender version. Resto get their Earth Shield back as baseline, which will make old school Resto Shamans happy. It'll be interesting to see how players react that haven't played the old specs before. Do you think you'll enjoy the new Shaman changes? Or are you happy with the way Shaman is now? If you want to see me cover the other classes as their changes get released, please like and subscribe so you don't miss them. The next class I'll cover will be Warlock. I hope you enjoyed it guys, this is Ragnarok, and I'll see you in my next video.